And boom! According to that, I am live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It's 10:33 p.m. Japan Standard Time. I've got a little bit of a cold tonight, so my throat, my voice might be off. I might have to blow my nose every now and again. Not too bad. Just the weather's suddenly gotten cooler. It's actually right now is the best time of the year. Um, I've just spent this week in Fukuoka. I just got back actually this evening, so I was down there for 6 days. It was really good to get back down there. I actually met my Fukuoka's. I've mentioned this before. Is where I originally went to Japan, and so on a high school exchange, I stayed with a homestay family in Fukuoka. So I found the contact for my old host family, and got in touch with them. I hadn't seen them in 25 years. I'd seen them a few years after I'd been there, but I hadn't seen them in ages, which is terrible on my part. But yeah, they're in the same house. They're same people and everything. So I went over and just like on my very first night in Japan, they ordered sushi in. So I got to have sushi with them. I was doing some work when I was there. There was there were some friends who were down there as well, who told me about there's a big digital nomad event down there. So there's some friends I knew who are associated with that, and I went along, saw a few of those activities, joined in, and met a few people from that, which was really cool. Did some running, got some work done. It was, it was a great week down there, and had some rain on the first couple of days, but had pretty much, yesterday I ran around an island, 9.6 Ks, which was really cool, and it was a great week. So anyway, but somewhere along the line, just on the very last day, I got a little bit of a cold. So hence, I've got water and stuff here, but, and also I haven't really been keeping the news that well this week, which is generally kind of a good thing. So just tonight I was going through the Twitter accounts of people that I follow, and that's what I've bookmarked, and that's what I'm going to be doing the show around. So I can talk about pretty much anything, including, questions on stuff that normally, that you can give me all the squirrels that you want today. I thought even just picking out some random topics, I'm not going to have that much, but there are a lot. Anyway, so we'll do this. I was just actually incredible. Literally the second at 10:30, I had open on three screens the SpaceX Flight Test 5 of Spaceship happening. And that was crazy. And in fact, just as 10:30 hit, the Starship itself landed in the Indian Ocean in the water. And looks like it successfully soft landed. It blew up once it got into the water. And the Starship booster landed on the chopsticks. It actually, which is just crazy. It doesn't even look real. So it's sort of good timing. It's like the people at SpaceX watched Tokyo Tonight, and they were like, "Yeah, we have to get this whole test flight out of the way before Tokyo Tonight starts." I'm sure that's exactly why it happened at this time. There'll be highlights and everything. You'll see it everywhere, but the live streams on it have been crazy. So I've had that open on one screen. I've been sort of still tidying up. I'm not really fully unpacked yet. That's some sunscreen. Got a little bit of sun, which is always a good thing. It's just been a crazy week. Still unpacking and all that sort of stuff. But great to see so many people, as always, here in the chat. Who we got? We've got Lara in here first. Great to see you. February Tenchi, second, although it says 4 are watching already at the time that you posted this at 10:16 p.m. So some lurkers in there. We had Sadiq. Sadiq made it in here third. Are you still in Turkey, Sadiq, or are you back in Florida now? Hope that you're well. Who else we got in here? We've got Dan H. Should there be a rebrand to something like Fukuoka Founding Formations, as it's my home city? Well, if I was doing, I'd have to think of something better if I was down there. I must say, I'll talk about this because I got a real reminder, actually, in lots of ways, both for my work, which is associated with IT stuff. And it's a funny thing that although, Tokyo is the biggest city in Japan, Yokohama second, Osaka third, then Nagoya, Kyoto, all these big cities, Fukuoka is down the list, but it is the number 2 city in Japan for startups. This is directly connected with stuff I do in my day-to-day job. And the city down there, they really have their stuff together. They're really promoting the city as a place they're encouraging these digital nomads, people who can work and travel, and generally in IT type jobs, but startups and stuff like that, and they're making it really friendly and accessible for people, for entrepreneurs who who are traveling and want to work while traveling around the world. And what I learned from this this digital nomad, this co-live summit thing, which I saw a couple of I met a lot of people from. There's like things all over the place. Within Japan, there's ones in like Shimoda and Okinawa, Fukuoka. In Korea, they've just set up a really good one. They've got ones in Thailand. They've got Bali. They've got all over the place. And you can just sort of if you are in the type of job that you don't need to be necessarily at an office and a desk, and if you're able to travel while working, and you can sort of do that, and which a lot of young people are doing. And theoretically, I think my job in theory, I kind of proved just working in this room for 2 years during the pandemic that I could probably do that for my job. Yeah, it's really enticing for that. So if you want to not only just watch Tokyo tonight, but actually be in Japan, Fukuoka is definitely great. And as a city, it's better than, I mean, everywhere is better than Nagoya, but it's better than Nagoya in the sense that Nagoya, I didn't find it's too spread out. It's too much of a Toyota town. It's a car town. Fukuoka is really walkable. It's really compact. It's got everything that you'd want. It's really got everything that you'd want that's in Tokyo. It's like the capital city of Kyushu, and I don't know the population of Kyushu, but I think it's probably about the same or maybe more than Australia, and it's like the capital city of that area. So it's a substantial economy just in Kyushu. And the food was actually really, really excellent. I don't think I had a bad meal when I was down there actually. So, yeah, great city, much more friendly than Tokyo, really compact, good sort of lifestyle. And yeah, the government down there is like promoting and encouraging as many foreigners as possible to come and work from there. So that was definitely a cool thing. And if that were the case, I'd probably rename the show Fukuoka something else that starts with F. That I don't care about monetization either, so I guess I could make it anything. But for now, it's Tokyo Tonight. I came back. I got back at 5 p.m., so in time to set up for all of this. Had a good evening, though. I was just literally until a minute ago playing Fortnite with my son, which I was enjoying. Black Tengu in from Greece. Good to see you, Black Tengu. Who else we got in here? We have Dan H asking, is tea time there in Athens? Time for tea and buttered crumpets. That sounds delightful. I would love to go check out that part of the world, actually. Maybe I could be a digital nomad. I'm pretty sure I heard somebody. There are definitely Greek people there. I'd love to be able to work from Greece. That sounds pretty cool. What do I think of these taglines? Asked Dan H. Anata wa mo kami de wa nai. You're no longer a god. Kasuhara o Tokyo ni modose. Return customer harassment to Tokyo. Ishiba o 2024年に再び Charlie Brown にしよう. Let's turn Ishiba back into Charlie Brown in 2024. 日本を再び偉大にしよう. Let's make Japan great again. Those are great taglines. You mean for this show? Maybe if I want to become prime minister and president all at the same time of Japan, maybe that's what I should run on. That'd be I'll tell you, the opposition, they should make that. Let's make Ishiba Charlie Brown again. Speaking of which, I do have a topic on Haruki Murakami, who it's becoming like a annual prank by the Nobel Committee that they keep nominating him for the Nobel Prize for Literature, and he's becoming the Charlie Brown. It's literally, we're just going to nominate you this one more time. Please hold on to hope. And this year it went to a Korean author. So that is the thing that's happening. What else? Yes, I was watching a re-entry as well, or I had it open. In fact, I've still got it open on the screen over here. It might be slowing down the stream, but it was crazy. Oh, in fact, I paused the stream, but the comments are still going. I'm going to watch that later, but that was incredible. Actually, that was really cool. Space stuff. Lysander 45, don't forget to click that link, the like button. Indeed, please do that. That's all I'm doing it for. The videos are not monetized. I just do this for the validation that you give me with your clicks on the like button. By the way, Lysander 45, remind me, are you in Taiwan or in China? I think you're one of the two, right? I always think of Taiwan, but I might be wrong about that. Would appreciate it. But, well, welcome. In any case, always good to see you. Ohio gozaimasu to Indiana. We've got Aaron in. Great to have our moderator in, as always. We've got Sainted Sir in from New York City. I hope you're having a lovely morning there. I hope it's also sunny and nice and cool like it is here in Tokyo, and it's been the last few days in Fukuoka as well. This is where I've been telling you for months, do not come to Japan right now. Weather is horrible, don't do it, go. Now is the time to come to Japan. It's actually lovely. Every day is like 26 degrees Celsius. Um, I can't remember what that is in Fahrenheit, but yeah, it's still t-shirt weather, but you can also go for a run and not risk dying of heat stroke. And you don't get cold, you don't get too hot. It's really, really great. Life happens indeed, does it? What? It was awesome to catch up with my host family, actually. And it was kind of funny because I actually saw my host family. They were running a dentist place, like just around the corner from where they lived. So I 25 years since I've talked to them. I tried out the old phone number that I had, and it didn't work. So I looked up the dentist's place right near their house, and instead it had the same name, the same family name as before, but now it was an ear, nose, throat doctor. And I was thinking their son was in medical school last I met him. I met him actually when he was at university in Saga. So I was thinking, oh, the son must have taken over that. Who actually didn't come and stay at my house because he had done the exchange a year earlier. But he was my homestay sort of partner. I exchanged with another Japanese person. But yeah, I sort of called up the ear, nose, throat place. And it turns out that was the son. So I didn't get a chance to actually meet the son, but I met the host family. Same house, same room. Nothing had changed. It was great. So yes, indeed. Christopher Luke, long time no see indeed. Great to see you back in the comments. Welcome. We've got Tadom. Great to have you in here, Tadom. Weekly Fascination. I recommend, by the way, Weekly Fascination has been posting, I guess you call them sort of podcasts, but they're vlogs in my book. But Weekly Fascination has a great YouTube channel and posts both interviews and discussions about living in Japan and stuff like that, and passing on some of his wisdom from his time in Japan. And whenever I watch your videos, Weekly Fascination, I think, yeah, I've done a few videos like that, like in the past. But I don't really do like dedicated videos on like advanced advice about how to deal with stuff before. I've done different things like Japan Business Time and all that sort of thing. But he's got a great series, which he's making a whole bunch of videos right now. So strongly recommend everybody go subscribe to Weekly Fascination and give all the likes and subscribes. He's doing a very good job with that. Kubra Stitchy, did I hear about the World War II bomb that blew up on a Japanese airport just after a plane rolled over that part of the taxiway? Yes, I did. The coverage of it was interesting as well. So yeah, the bomb was embedded in the runway, apparently, of the airport in Miyazaki, which happens to be where they BBC mentioned, as if to kind of justify there being a bomb there, said that, oh, that's an airport where kamikaze pilots would take off. Basically, all the kamikaze pilots who were trained to go and fly into American ships going towards between Guam and Okinawa. Miyazaki was where they were all trained and took off from. And so the BBC story sort of said somewhere along the lines that the US bomb was there to try to stop kamikaze pilots from taking off. Like it was like the bomb had a really good intention of doing them a favor. It exploded 70 years later in a civilian airport just after a plane went by. And it was a proper explosion as well. It wasn't like a 70-year-old. You think it might get a bit rusty or just be like a pop or a dud. But no, it was a full-on, like it had just been dropped. It was like watching Ukraine war footage type stuff. So I did see that. And this is, there are a lot of bombs dropped on Japan, and not all of them have been exploded yet, as we find out. This sort of thing, it's not unusual during construction projects and stuff that they find old unexploded bombs. It is unusual that they just spontaneously explode like this, but it shows that they can. So yeah, that was crazy. Shubas, a man from Panama, great that you could make it. Hope you're enjoying a great coffee there. And Odie Jr., great to see you as well. Wood, bada boom, good morning indeed. We've got our US crew, we've got our America's crew, I should say, because we've got Panama and the United States, I believe, in here. Crypto Eerie, great to see listening while editing. And also as well, I've watched a few of your videos, Crypto Eerie. I can't keep up, honestly. I'm very much a newbie on the crypto. I do work a lot with machine learning and AI stuff, so I suppose I work more in businesses that are competing for the GPUs. But I actually, Crypto Eerie has if you're into crypto, she has a really jam-packed sort of channel of just interviews and information about sort of crypto stuff. It's really interesting. So I really appreciate that you would listen to me while you're doing all of that. And yes, good work on all of your stuff. Yes, Cobras Tenchi sharing that Fukuoka has the perfectly normal and acceptable and not fun to make fun of name FUK, which is all of that. And yes, yes, it does make it fun when you get the baggage tag that just says "fuck." But yeah, it's one of those things where it's almost like too easy of a setup that it's just like it's almost like not even like sporting to actually make fun of the airport name. But there you go. Lysander 45 used to live in China but left there in 2020 because of reasons. Yeah, that happens with a lot of people. So you've been in Japan for nearly 2 years. Okay, and back in UK since 2023. Yeah, I remember you used to have a connection with that. But okay, well, yeah, I always really appreciate your insight on China-related news. That's what always stands out to me. So, yeah, wonderful. My pleasure to give this out. Shout out Weekly Fascination. Good work with the videos. Tokyo is bringing a law to stop customer harassment against service workers. I think they're actually specifically targeting, they're doing a campaign against bullying of city employees of Tokyo Prefecture, like government workers. Um, but yeah, literally just customers who bully like shop staff and stuff like that. Karens, I think, is the slightly I'm not comfortable calling like women who complain like Karens. I grew up, I had friends called Karen. Karen is a perfectly normal Japanese name. It seems a bit unfair to people called Karen, but yeah, it's basically an anti-Karen law. I don't know what you can really do very well about that, but just putting people on notice that their BS will not be tolerated is good. Autumn, early fall weather, because you're Americans and too lazy to say autumn because leaves fall. That's okay. Not chilly there yet in NYC. It's not really chilly here. Well, it's cooling off, which is nice. But yeah, 500-pound bomb. That's a big bomb. Shuba says coffee. Germany keeps finding World War II and even World War One bombs regularly. Yep, that is a thing that yeah definitely happens here in Japan. And so yeah, let's dive into the comments. It's already 10:50, geez, and we haven't even started on topics. And the first topic is actually speaking of Germany. Kerberos Tenchi, maybe you can give us your take on this. A German couple, some German tourists who came to Japan, were frustrated that so few Japanese understood English. The full sort of story there being that they found it very difficult and frustrating trying to order food because everybody doesn't understand English, and they thought that Japanese people would be better able to speak English. So yeah, even if they say hello or hi, they won't make eye contact. I started to wonder if people in Japan just don't have the opportunity to learn English, Kino said, unable to hide his culture shock from the frustrating exchanges he had with Japanese people. So yeah, apparently this news article earlier in the week, I missed the blow up for this, but a lot of people said it. If you don't want to learn the language, go home and all this sort of thing. But Japan's always gotten. Even when I arrived in Japan, all the tourism was Japanese people. It wasn't foreigners. And Japanese are also educated. I had a great long conversation with my old host family, and they were saying themselves, Japanese are sort of told that like they're educated that even when they learn English for a long time, they're educated that if you say one word wrong, like the way that it's tested, even if there's no good enough answer in the way that they were taught English. I think it's changing. By the way, the education system here is improving. It's better for kids now than it was for people my age and older. But they're sort of taught that there's no getting by and getting the point across. You either nail it perfectly as the textbook says, 100% or 0%. And if they're afraid it's going to be even a slight mistake, they'll just shut down and not say anything, and their brains will shut down and try not to understand, because if they're not 100% sure they understand, they're worried that there could be a misunderstanding, so they just don't, often will not say anything. And yeah, as an education system that's oriented around training people in precision, which, language is just not a precise thing. So that's true, but that said, in Japan, the other thing that is important, both from customers and staff, is just attitude, like just being friendly. You're never really going to get into trouble unless you're the ones being a dickhead. So you get that sort of a thing. Yeah, Germans just love to complain. Well, I'm sure they haven't beaten the British on that, but yeah, it's kind of a thing. There's, I don't know. Whenever I think of German tourists, I always remember the awful awful but incredibly funny Faulty Towers episode where the manager of the hotel from Monty Python, John Cleese, gets hit in the head and gets a bit delirious and becomes obsessed with reminding all the staff not to mention to the German tourists anything about the war, and then talking about the war non-stop inadvertently. So it could be much worse, but there we go. Only 13 likes, says Aaron. How many likes are we up to? I can't actually see through the StreamYard interface how many likes I have, but Aaron's watching, so do remember to like, because I do appreciate that stuff. Another couple that went without informing themselves. That happens. Yeah, German strike me has been pretty well organized, so there we go. Don't talk about that. Just don't mention the war. It was a great episode. It was a horrible. I'm not sure you can make an episode like that anymore, but thank heavens there was a time when they could make it because it was a great show. Speaking of awkward international relations, apparently I was wondering what would happen with this because Ishiba's like a military nerd. He's in the LDP, so Korea has a general predisposition against liking any Japanese prime minister. But apparently, because he's like such the arch enemy of Abe, and people in Korea hate Abe so much, he's gotten off to a great start. Remember as well that currently the president, who's very not long for this world politically in Korea, is very pro-Japan. So generally the media and everything in Korea right now is actually very Japan friendly, which is wonderful, and I wish it could always be like this. But it probably makes him a little bit more open-minded as well to finding out, oh, this is the man within the LDP that that Abe hates the most. And if you look at Taro Aso, who they also hate his guts, his family apparently were war sort of profiteers running factories that Korean slave labor and stuff was in, I think is one of the things. So Aso's not well liked either, and Aso won't even shake his hand or look in his direction sometimes. So they see that reaction, they're like, oh, so this must be a good guy. So inadvertently, looks like things are off to a good start with Ishiba in Korea, so that's good news. 13 likes, always getting better. Tom, glad that you can make it. But are you German? Is that... for some reason I always thought you were from Australia, but maybe I'm getting wires crossed, but you're bad at organizing? Well, anyway, I think it's a positive stereotype that people have of German people, that even if it's not true, I'd encourage you to not shatter our dreams by telling us that it doesn't apply. The Master. Wow, long time no see, The Master. Wow, everybody's working, and this is a great crowd tonight. By the way, I will take... I was going to post onto Twitter. I didn't have time because I was running around a bit too much this evening, but I've got some great photos. You can always check out my Instagram and stuff for photos. I got some photos of just going around about in Fukuoka, which I will post later on, but I will just say once again, Fukuoka is an awesome city, actually. It really is. And especially if you ever want to travel while working and being like a digital nomad or whatever, Fukuoka is probably the city in Japan, the major city that's most focused on attracting people and being good for people who want to do that sort of thing. There are some other locations that Japanese like to go to, like Shimoda, Karuizawa, Okinawa, Japanese tour locations, but Fukuoka is like a full-on city. Do encourage that. Continuing on, there's one thing actually interesting. I saw Unseen Japan take this topic on, that a lot of convenience stores, this was kind of a recent development just a few years ago, but they developed where they would actually, because Japan has this thing where, and for a long time, even knowing it's not the right thing to do, I would do this myself. I might buy some bread and a drink, and I would eat it while walking, which is not that unusual in Australia or New Zealand, or I think it's the same in Europe and places like that. In Japan, there's a real thing that you should not be walking around in the street ever eating and drinking, because the idea is that you might, the risk of inadvertently dropping litter for one thing, or dropping the food itself, and possibly even bumping into someone, or it's just sort of untidy, sort of bad manners. So the idea is if you ever want to eat, find somewhere to stop and sit down and eat if you have to. But walking and eating, in Kamakura, south of Tokyo, where they have the big Buddha statue, they actually posted signs because so many people would go there by the beach in summer and buy an ice cream and walk along the street eating an ice cream, which was outraging the locals so much that they're putting up signs, do not eat and walk at the same time. So it's in that light that when you go to a convenience store, you're often buying snacks and so on. But, you've got in some parts of Japan, it's kind of famous that Yankees, furyo, what's furyo in English? Badly behaved sort of teenagers and stuff will be squatting down outside in a circle, eating their ramen and bread on the ground in the car park and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of people sort of said, "Hey, if you just can you just put down a couple of chairs there, and if you just want to get like a coffee and a snack, and you are like not near the office or you're not somewhere you can carry it back, yeah, they put in these tables, which I actually kind of appreciate. That without going outside, you can actually throw your rubbish away there, but you can sit down, have your bread, have a quick bento, and be on your way. The problem is that the sales tax, when it changed a year ago, they made the sales tax variable. That I think for items I think the sales tax is higher in restaurants than it is in supermarkets. So they said if you're going to a place just to buy groceries, it's like, I'm going to be wrong about this, but I think it's like still 5% or it's 8%. And whereas if you're in a restaurant and you're sitting down to eat, it's 8% or 10%. That's a little bit more. So for all these convenience stores that put this little area where you could sit down, what the tax agency said was, for the people shopping in convenience stores, if they're going to eat the food inside the convenience store, you have to charge the restaurant tax. But if they're just buying their groceries, you do the lesser one. So of course you just tell everybody, oh, I'm going to have this to go, but then go walk around and sit down at the table, which technically is tax evasion, but it's just a ridiculous system. But the result of this is that even though these spaces inside the convenience stores that they've been putting there, that I use and I think are great for sitting down and having a coffee and a bun or something and taking a break at a convenience store, people are not using them, possibly because it actually costs a little bit of extra tax and it's a hassle having to do that every time. So Family Mart, finding that the space is not being used that much, is removing them from Family Marts. And I'm partly biased because I live closest to Family Mart, but Family Mart does the best deal with coffees. If you want to get a cafe latte for 220 yen large from freshly ground beans in the machines, Family Mart does the best coffee. I think overall 7-Eleven is the best. Karage-kun from Lawson is awesome. But I'm kind of a Family Mart person, but they're taking these things out, and it's partly just because they're so desperate for tax that literally the tax office is threatening convenience stores about collecting from people who are sitting down to drink their coffee, which is kind of dumb. But also, you need those spaces because you can't walk around and eat. So yeah, fuho. I don't know if it's like it's datsuze. It's not paying tax technically, like probably less than a yen, but there we go. Maverick, good to see you, Maverick. There's a handle name I haven't seen for a while. You actually have a Sunday off for the first time in a long while, so you get to catch this live again. Awesome to have you. Great that you can join. Yeah, and even if you can't watch it live, I do love when people leave comments on during the week, actually, because I get little notifications from those, and it's nice to know that surviving. Great to have you in the chat. Where are you joining from, Maverick? I'm glad that you could get out of... In fact, normally working Sundays, that sounds tough as well, so extra glad that you could make it. Other topics that we have. Politically, I know you're not also interested in this, and I wasn't following the news myself. But the quick summary of what's been happening with the news this week is that the government immediately dissolved itself and said we're having a national election on Sunday the 27th, so literally Sunday after next. You talk about America, it takes a year and a half, to have a single election to choose between, like basically two people, the presidential election. And here we are in Japan. They just decided like a couple of days ago that here in 2 weeks, let's just hold a surprise national election because we just changed the LDP leader. They could have done this election anytime until like November next year, but they just said, you know what, 2 weeks from now. So I do appreciate the efficiency of Japan, that we don't have all of this kind of extreme, like the election cycle in America is just exhausting and ridiculous. So for Japan, they're doing this. And the LDP, the new prime minister said that he would ban people who are taking slush fund money from the undeclared payments from the political fundraising sort of parties or from the study group parties that the LDP was doing. They would be banned from running in the next election. However, he's kind of softened on this, and now it's a bit weird. Rather than having a single rule, there's two things that are happening. Some people are banned entirely, both for running for a seat and for being on the party list. Some people are 100% of them are banned from being on the PR list, which is that people who vote for the LDP party and they top up the seats to represent the percentage of seats won by the LDP overall. Those are the people on the party list, and everyone who definitely engaged in the sort of money corruption is banned from being on that list. Which normally that's like a backup. So even if you lose the election for your seat, if you're on the list and the party gets enough votes, which the LDP normally does, they get a second bite. They still get to sit in Parliament as a list MP rather than as a local representative. But what they've said is that for some of the people who are just, really well liked in their constituencies, they've said, rather than judge that you can't be in parliament anymore, we believe in you. We think, you're redeemable. So we're going to let you go back and run for your own seat, but you have to win it. If you don't win your seat, we're not going to put you on the backup list, so you don't get a seat in parliament. So they're actually allowing some of the corrupt representatives of the LDP in some cases to go back and get an endorsement from their local electorates. So apparently, they're polling the public. Do you understand? Do you find that understandable, the way that the LDP is doing this, making people earn the trust back by getting a new endorsement back from their local voters, or not? Apparently, for this poll by JNN TBS, 75% of people said no. I don't. That does not make any sense that you allow corrupt politicians to rerun for parliament at all. I mean, again, the new prime minister came in saying that he was going to address this corruption problem and crack down on it. And he's saying kind of like, well, we think you've actually still got a good chance of winning, and we don't want to lose, so you can run. Which means basically that they're not getting punished at all. They're just not getting the safety net of the party list, which again should be offering a great opportunity to opposition parties to point out that Bozo, who I'm running against, literally embezzled money from a slush fund for his own personal sort of he broke the election funds laws. Literal direct corruption. I mean, it should be easy to win, but yet somehow the opposition here always manages to lose. So that's a thing. Coming back to the comments. Shubis wonders why they sell out coffee. It's popular in Japan. Oh, I mean, yeah, the Panamanian coffee, of course. I mean, it's one of the things I think. The canal and the coffee is what people in Japan definitely know about Panama. Black Tengu, Canal City in Hakata is amazing. I probably didn't give it enough credit. I did walk kind of through it, but I didn't go properly into the shopping center part of it. I thought it was just a big shopping center, but it is pretty amazing. And I did actually on my first day. I went for a run around Nakasu Island and then around the outside along Canal City. But yeah, like Hakata's got like cool stuff, and it's all really accessible. Like it's got great subways, but you can also walk. It's like Tokyo that you can sort of decide to walk for 10 minutes or take the subway, but everything's very accessible. So yeah, it's kind of cool that you know that. So you know Hakata, that's really awesome. Lysander 45 was always a Lawson person, but that was mainly because their points card was the simplest to acquire. And you worked at a nearby supermarket. Did they have the T-point system? Yeah, it might be that. Yeah, 7-Eleven. Unless I've missed something, at least for now, that Canadian group is not. They've had their initial bid to take over 7-Eleven rebuffed, but I think they might go into hostile takeover mode. And certainly, if that succeeds, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I would be very, very worried about 7-Eleven going back to being like the 7-Elevens in America, which are not very nice, honestly. I went to a 7-Eleven in Seattle, and I won't be doing that again. 7-Elevens in Japan are paradise. Compared to what's in America. So I also worry about that, but we'll see what happens. Maverick watching from California, so very early in the morning there, but very glad that you could make it. And the armed forces of organized crime. Why don't I become Prime Minister of Japan? That's what I keep asking them. You're definitely both. But yeah, I would quietly and discreetly accept the endorsement of the armed forces of organized crime for my campaign for a country that I'm not a citizen of and not allowed to vote or run, but I do appreciate the moral support, so thank you for that. Diving back in, as I mentioned earlier, Murakami Haruki, he seems like he's nominated for every Nobel Prize, and it's literally like they're just doing this to prank him at this point. Yes, Haruki Murakami must never be allowed to win the Nobel Prize, since it would take away work from the journalists covering his silly fan gatherings and jazz cafes every October. He's the new Charlie Brown. I didn't think it could happen. I tell you, if there are things in this world that were never meant to be, it was Charlie Brown kicking the football, Ishiba becoming prime minister, and Haruki Murakami getting the Nobel Prize for Literature. And when Ishiba became prime minister, literally anything is possible. It's kind of an inspirational story, but not too powerful. And the irony is the Nobel Committee is literally Lucy holding the football. So, you heard that 7-Eleven wants to bring the Japanese 7-Eleven experience to America. I'm curious how they're going to attempt that. So am I. I don't know if they can do that. I would love to have a proper Japanese style 7-Eleven in America and see how it goes over. I think they should even like stick to the Japanese food. One thing I remember about the American 7-Eleven was just how overwhelmingly the smell of the sugar and the sweets and everything, it's just repulsive to me. And they're not clean. So you've suddenly got to get the staff to give a crap about how clean the shops are while being paid minimum wage, which they do in Japan. But how are you going to get them to do that in America? There's some things where you could replace the shelves and the structure and everything, but it still is going to be a place where people on drugs walk in, people who want to rob somewhere go in, and where staff are in there for the paycheck and the bare minimum. There's things that I don't know how you could really do a full proper Japanese 7-Eleven experience, but I would love them to try it. I'd like to see them make that happen. Even if they have to go out market, even if they have to charge more, I think you'd find it'd be like Whole Foods. I think Americans would be so confused and delighted at seeing what a good quality convenience store looks like that even if they went premium, I mean, if they went premium by Japanese yen standards, it would still be cheap anyway. They should literally just fly the staff over from Japan over there. Just fly the food. Japanese food is popular. You could totally do that. Texans screaming "Irashaimase." I mean, seriously, you know what? I think that is a better angle than trying to save the 7-Elevens that are currently there. Anyway, I mean, the irony is, I've said this before. I go to Seattle, and like Starbucks in Japan is actually good. I don't know like how that works because the coffee beans are all being imported from the same countries and stuff. But Starbucks in America sucks. It's horrible. I go in there when I feel like a milkshake with coffee in it. But in Japan, I mean, it's not good. There is better coffee, obviously, than Starbucks. But Starbucks is decent quality. Whereas I was excited to go to Starbucks in America. What a mistake that was. So there you go. All of that stuff. So so now LDP's flip flopping. They were in. So they're being selective about which slush fund people they're endorsing and not. Funny one here, actually. Apparently, some police arrested somebody. Oh, no, what happened? There was a story going around that apparently some people were arrested because someone called police saying that they smelled marijuana. To which, in Seattle, you would have to arrest the entire city. It's like nothing. Like I say, it was kind of exciting. Like, ooh, I can smell weed for like the first day. And for the other 5.5 months that I was in Seattle, it was like, I hate this, like the smell is too much. It got to be annoying. But as Jeffrey J. Hall pointing out here, some people were saying, how do you know what marijuana smells like? For you, it's like, who knew it blew it, or what is it? First to know, first to blow. The old who farted thing. If you know what the smell of marijuana is, then you must have yourself partaken, because a normal law-abiding citizen should not know what marijuana smells like. Is how which is also a reflection how in Japan, of course, marijuana is seen as equivalent to or even beyond crack cocaine and heroin. It is considered a hard, life-changing drug. You'll be basically in the gutters, selling your body and possibly making Beatles music. I don't really understand how that goes, but the idea is that all drugs are bad. There's no legal drugs like alcohol and cigarettes are completely okay because they're legal, and legal drugs are completely bad. So even knowing. So the trending phrase here is the smell of marijuana, and it's like how can you report having smelled marijuana? They should arrest the person who recognized the smell of marijuana for recognizing the smell. Some people commenting that Japanese who go overseas will know what it smells like. But I would also point out that up in Hokkaido, marijuana grows wild by the highways. There used to be bus tours that would go up to Hokkaido in buses, and they would take rest breaks whenever they saw these plants growing by the highway, and people would just like randomly pick these plants that are a very distinctive color and shape. And I don't know, maybe they wanted to make rope out of their hemp. Who knows what they wanted to do? It's not very strong stuff in Japan, apparently. But it's this weird thing. To the majority of people, it's an unthinkable hard drug. Although there are, of course, also many people. Like I say, the stuff grows wild in Japan, so it exists. So people would know, but it's kind of funny seeing the reaction. The Tokyo Medical University for Dentistry has a Starbucks on campus. That's not too surprising. Oh, Aaron knows what weed smells like. Dark sunglasses, yes. Well, don't tell anyone in Japan because that's like talking about the strawberry flavor of the sort of strawberry hints in the flavor of crack cocaine. That's kind of how you sound to Japanese people. But yes, I indeed know what the devil's lettuce smells like. And in the right circumstances, in the right atmosphere, in a park on a sunny day with some music going, whatever. I mean, sure, why not? But when I was brushing my teeth at 6 o'clock in the morning and all my clothes stink of it through the ventilation system that I'm sharing with Bob Marley in the apartment next door, no, not cool. Stop it. All of that stuff. But there again, I'm still reporting someone to the police over the smell. I mean, I guess. Anyway, kind of funny. Speaking of reporting to the police over stuff and the police prosecuting, apparently a real estate firm in Ibaraki is being charged with knowingly renting apartments to 29 Indonesians who overstayed their visas. And you know what I'm thinking? When I rent apartments, I guess they do, as ID, they do check your foreign residence card, but they are literally, yes, hopefully throwing a signal out there that no cocaine is being currently done here. I mean, I'm in trouble if that's actually accurate, but who knows? So the police are prosecuting a real estate firm that rented apartments to foreigners that were overstaying their visas, like for renting it to them. It's like as if it's a crime. It's a crime for the foreigners to overstay. I've never heard of anyone being prosecuted for renting an apartment knowing that someone's visa statement status was in. They're literally arresting you for not like snitching on. It's literally like renting to someone who has outstanding speeding tickets. Um, kind of different, but is it the responsibility of anyone who you interact with who knows it to report you to the police, and you can be prosecuted for not doing it? So yeah, kind of interesting story here, which again I haven't had time to get all the details on, but the police are kind of being really aggressive on cracking down on overstaying. I don't know what kind of visa this entails. I suspect it might be the apprenticeship visas, but doesn't say what type of visa it was. So 29 people, it's also a lot of people. So maybe it was the scale and just how bad maybe it was sort of overwhelmingly obvious. So yeah, they had a Japanese broker. They were living in Japan. They had overstayed, but it doesn't say whether they came in on tourist visas or what. But and they profiteered from it. They received a certain amount of money. But kind of, I don't talk about another precedent that doesn't look very good. That they've got that. In better news, while some people are talking about how Japan, the LDP's craziest, it looked like of all the possible women candidates in the LDP, the craziest one looked like she might actually become Japan's first woman prime minister. And even the feminists were kind of like, yeah, we're not sure we want a woman in this particular case. And I was defending Sonai Takaichi, saying that, yeah, she used to be a little bit of a maniac, a little bit of a Marjorie Taylor Greene, or some people were saying, I never thought she was that stupid. I thought she was intelligent, just very, very far right, and kind of, Abe's protege and whatever. However, someone who is very far right and stupid, and really would fit the Marjorie Taylor Greene profile is this woman, Sugita Mio Sugita, who tried running for parliament and actually came like bottom, like she came below like the communist legalized crack party. She couldn't get voted any other way, but they put her on the list, the party list, and she made the cut because Abe got so many votes for the party. And when she started talking, she's like anti-Korean, she's anti-Ainu, she's anti-gays, she's anti-people having the right to have separate names. And literally is putting out crazy racist conspiracy theories and saying that we should deport. So she is legitimately, yes, stupid and bad. Nothing. But on top of that, she took slush money. I didn't realize that she was on the list of politicians who, on top of not deserving to be in parliament at all and getting in there on a fluke, was totally taking slush fund money. So she is not going to be allowed back onto the list, and she was never able to win a seat. So she's been completely barred from running for the LDP, which reduces the number of women that the LDP has when it's already only 5% representation. But it's also telling the LDP that you should try to be getting up to 30% representation of women and not resorting to crazy racist people who are also corrupt. Ain't no party like Indeed. Yes. all of that stuff. The armed forces of organized crime. Your grandfather was a super far right guy. He believed that Japan is a dominant race, which I think is FBS, which I think is the brother of the yes, is Fahid bin Salman, I believe, the brother of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and not fucking bullshit. But it could be the latter. I don't know. Think about us, I suppose. Those you find her attractive. Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to get too sidetracked again. I've talked a lot about Taro Aso. I actually appreciate the fact he's trying to bring, 1930s detective magazine hats back. And he dresses like an old-fashioned Sicilian mob boss, and the fact that he's from the Sicily of Japan, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, watching him act like a child in recent news has been a little bit too much. But at the same time, what I like about Taro Aso was when the LDP got kicked out of government, he went on TV shows, and he's actually got he unlike Abe, who found no humor in being in opposition at all. He was always sort of grumpy and pissed off. Aso was like, I've seen him on TV shows laughing and making jokes about himself and how crappy his tenure as PM was, and how when scandals kept coming. And he was like, geez, I thought we were already screwed. Then we were like totally screwed. He's capable of making fun of himself and recognizing the ridiculousness of his situation. I think if he did anything, if he ran an izakaya, I would love to hang out with Taro Aso, but as a politician, he shouldn't be allowed. There should be a restraining order on him being allowed within like 200 kilometers of the palace or the parliament. So, the government, actually the Keidanren, the business association, saying that, Japan might be good at making content. The government should get in on that and ruin it completely by creating a ministry of content. I think this is like the Cool Japan thing. I think the idea, actually, New Zealand does do this. The New Zealand government does subsidize New Zealand creators and so on, and tries to, provide support, economic support to people. But the problem is that you're still going to end up getting editorialized. People are going to want to have control. So I don't know how much the government should be getting into having a ministry of content. That sounds suspiciously like a ministry of propaganda. But I do like the idea if they can somehow neutrally provide support for Japanese, for promoting J-pop and making it better and all of that sort of stuff. We'll see what happens. But the Atomic Tom, wondering if Fem Trump, they're all different things over here, but all of that. Lysander 45 asking Sugita Mio would respond where the Yayoi people come from. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that. Now, what is the story? So the far right wing people who have problems with the Ainu, who unquestionably lived in Japan and probably are the descendants of the Yayoi people. The view from the right wingers is that no, they just migrated in from Siberia. They're like from Sakhalin and places like that. And they came into Japan late in the piece. They went there first, which is ridiculous. They've actually found Tokyo itself, all of Tohoku, all the way down to Tokyo, all the way down to Shizuoka. It used to be Ainu territory. A lot of the place names in Japan, even outside of Hokkaido, actually have Ainu origins. Yayoi people it's debated all over the place, but I think that they are considered separate and sort of immigrants as well. But anyway, we've got 10 more minutes. I'm gonna speed up and see what else we've got in here. We've got the elementary schoolmates of Haruki Murakami finding out that he lost again. It's good that Charlie Brown can still attract a crowd for him kicking the ball, but it still is the same result. Speaking of Fukuoka, the Fukuoka High Court ruled that a woman who brought a lawsuit saying it was unconstitutional that she would lose her Japanese citizenship by becoming an American is unconstitutional, and the court said, no, it's fine. The law's there. You knew the law. The law is clear that Japan has kind of a don't ask, don't tell policy with regards to half kids who are born with two passports. But if you're a grown-ass adult who knows the law, the citizenship law in Japan says that you cannot, if you acquire a different citizenship as a Japanese, you forfeit your Japanese citizenship. And if you want to become a naturalized Japanese, if I wanted to become a Japanese citizen, I would have to forfeit and renounce my New Zealand citizenship, which would be, given that I've got a son who might one day want to go study in New Zealand, or and be able to study as a local student on local fees and not have to pay as an international student. I would have to give up my son's option to be able to do that in the future. If I could retain my New Zealand citizenship, I would become a Japanese citizen immediately. But the law in Japan is pretty clear that as an adult, Japan is one of many countries that only allows you to have one citizenship, and this can be linked to all sorts of things. Some people, when you talk about citizenship, they'll say that if you allow dual citizenship, if Japan ever gets attacked by China, they'll be able to run away. They're not stuck. You have to commit to the country that you're in, including the possibility of military conscription, which is a legit concern and something to think about. And it's another question. I mean, literally, you do have to ask the question. Would you die if would you be willing to be called up and to fight and die for a country whose citizenship you are choosing to take? But apparently this woman did this and claimed that either she didn't know. In fact, I don't think she claimed she didn't know. She knew the rule, but she thought it was so unfair that she should be able to do it and then have her Japanese citizenship revocation be not recognized because it's so unfair. And the court's like, no, this is how Japan's always sort of been. The rules are clear. If you've got a problem with it, change it in parliament. And most people in Japan, I don't think there are polls. Most people sort of don't see a problem with the status quo because most people are not looking to acquire multiple citizenships. Personally, I would love it, but it's not for my benefit. I think if the population collapse happens more and Japanese need foreigners who aren't willing to renounce their foreign citizenship to invest more in Japan, offering dual citizenship is a good way to attract foreigners to immigrate to Japan. But Japan is still dealing, while there are now 3 million foreigners living in Japan, I don't think Japan is comfortable yet saying, become Japanese. Although this is something that happened with the Koreans. Remember, the Koreans who were left behind in World War II, in Japan after World War II, were stateless basically until 1970. When was it? 1975, I think, when they established 1965, when they established diplomatic relations with South Korea. The North Koreans are still in a kind of a gray zone, actually. But even then, they made it so it was almost impossible for them to get Japanese citizenship. But then in the 90s, when you have all of these problems, including Koreans who were like supporting, giving money to the North Korean regime, and shipping money out of the country, and other sort of societal problems associated with Koreans not being able to get into Japanese society, the government just changed all the rules and actually switched it from being hard for Koreans born in Japan to becoming Japanese to actually making it faster. It's easier if you're a Korean born, as it should be. If you're a Korean fourth or fifth generation born in Japan, they switch the rules to make it so that now they get a fast track to citizenship. And I think the same attitude will happen with other foreign groups. That the more that those communities are established in Japan, and when they realize the problem of multi-generational people living in Japan who only know Japan but are kind of rejected by the society and the problems that can create, they'll increasingly, I think, fast track the acceptance of foreigners. And I think they'll find somewhere along the line that recognizing dual citizenship is part of that. The main reason that they don't do it is the same reason that New Zealand banned Asian immigration for 50 years, is because they're afraid of the population of China, and specifically the CCP getting political foothold with people who have dual loyalties in Japan. People feel vulnerable being next to a country of 1.1 billion people that have a bad memory of what Japan did to them in World War II, just across the water. That's ultimately, even if they love Americans and they've got no problem with dual citizenship with America, it's always going to come down to fear of China and being right beside China. That's going to hold that up, unfortunately. But Dan H. asking, why would you revoke your citizenship for an American citizenship? It's like a passport downgrade. It's certainly a tax increase. And the Americans chase you around the world forever, wherever you live as well. So it's not like New Zealand where you get to stop paying taxes after being away for a year. Japanese hibakusha, survivors of the Hiroshima bombing, who have been campaigning, honestly, with no results, really, for 80 years on getting the world to give up nuclear weapons, got the Nobel Peace Prize, which is wonderful for them, and a recognition that most of them are now at an age where they're dying of advanced old age. There is that slight contradiction that's probably inappropriate to bring up, that on the one hand they are, they're classified as radiation victims of the atomic bombing, and yet most of the ones that are surviving now are over 100 years old, which makes you think, geez, does that make them live longer? But no, most people, of course, have gone through their lives with painful effects of radiation burns and sickness and so on. Even though they've taken care of themselves and been able to live long lives, it doesn't mean that they haven't suffered throughout those long lives, both from the medical effects of the after effects of the atomic bombs, as well as the discrimination from within Japan. Just that generally, that it's like a karmic punishment, that a lot of Buddhists sort of think that way. That if this terrible thing happened to you, you must have deserved it from something you did in a previous life. Is kind of a superstitious way that a lot of Japanese look at it. So they face terrible discrimination in Japan, and yet a lot of those people have been really proactive, going to the UN and testifying to the effect of nuclear weapons, and have persuaded. And it's kind of funny as well, because everybody, like America, is generally supportive of the anti-nuclear groups, so long as they're asking for everybody else not to have nukes, but not applying that to America. And this is the thing, like the countries that have nukes, there's been no progress at all. Of course, America and Russia agreed mutually to reduce nuclear weapons numbers, and this is now, I guess, maybe the timing of this was that they're getting old. And right now, America and Russia are ending all the nuclear weapons reductions treaties, and Russia's now regularly threatening nuclear war. So perhaps it's good timing in that light. But I also feel like, I wish that they could have made more sort of progress towards actually achieving their goals. But it's a nice recognition that they got that. Shivas, when you were teaching English in Tokyo decades ago, one of your students had all of these marks on his face. He said it was from the Hiroshima bomb. I was speechless, fortunately. Maybe fortunately it continues on. But wow, so you met Hibakusha, who had experienced an atomic bomb. Hiroshima bomb. That's pretty crazy. Pardon me. Meanwhile, in America, apparently Trump is specifically citing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 as a grounds for rounding up all the illegal immigrants in America, which is the law that was used to gather the Japanese into what were at the time called concentration camps, because concentration camps, before we found out what the Nazis did with concentration camps, the British used them in the Boer War in South Africa, and it was this idea of grabbing a whole class of people and concentrating them into camps where you can control that population. And during World War II, the Enemy Aliens Act was put together, and it was to gather all the Japanese and concentrate them in pretty horrible camps, basically imprisoning them. And the current, former president running for America is talking about doing exactly what was done with Japanese residents, ethnic Japanese residents of America and citizens of America. I suppose there's a difference if he's talking about doing this with illegal immigrants, but I also remember, like Texas Republicans always have appreciated that, those Mexican immigrants and South American immigrants are a really important part of the economy in that part of America. And Republicans, George Bush would give, White House speeches in Spanish and talk about how important it was to have flexibility around the border for Republican farmers to have the seasonal labor and stuff like that. So it still is insane to me. Again, there's too much insane, and this is why I like Japanese politics, because we don't have this huge, long 1.5 year cycle where it just gets crazier like this. The idea that they're actually talking about literally creating concentration camps again in America is kind of crazy. For people who don't like, most people in Tokyo get really irritated by the go-karts, which are allowed to drive around on the roads, and there are tours that go around and do it, driving all over Tokyo and causing chaos and sometimes having crashes and stuff like that. Apparently, prosecutors have now found in multiple cases where apparently they've allowed foreign drivers to do this without an appropriate recognized foreign license or an international license to be driving on Japanese roads on these carts. So they're actually prosecuting now the operators for allowing unlicensed foreign drivers to drive on the streets in these. It's kind of amazing that they've been able to get away with it for so long, frankly. But there you go. Anything else? Apparently, the Tokyo government matchmaking app already is in the hot water over rejecting a candidate of someone with a mild disability from being marriage material because he is not healthy. So again, this is what happens when you let the government decide who can marry who, which again seems like a science fiction movie plot. And apparently today in Fukuoka Station, the police did a demonstration of how they would catch, or the baseball stadium, they showed how they would use basically tools that look like they were in 1960s Batman episodes to catch the Joker and the Penguin. Literally a net gun and I always have to say this the proper way. I think it's a sasamuta. Never say smata. It's always sasmata. Oh, geez, now I can say it. Um, yeah. Getting arrested by smata. Um, not. You might see an increase in crime. I'm not even going to explain what that is again. Also, this town is apparently called Kure, and the sign here says "Mata kite kure." Come again to Kure, which is the local town, but it also sounds like "come the fuck back," which is quite a nice little sign. And words that are apparently used in Japan. Final story: the words that are used by people in their 30s to their 60s that are actually considered dead words in Japanese. How many of these do I use? Jipan, which is an old-fashioned word for jeans. I do not use this, but this is the main one. Some people freaking out that, oh my god, jipan. Jeans pants. That's the number one. Number two, shame. Send me a photo mail. I don't say that. So, okay, I'm still fashionable. Check, I say. Check is like your fly. I don't know another way of saying check. A chakumero. That's definitely an old one. That's like the ringtone. Choiwaru. I don't use it, but I don't think of that as an out of date. That's just a little bit bad. Abek, I don't know what that is. Floppy disk, well, that's just floppy disks don't get used. Itamish. What's itamishi? I can't remember. Oh, itamishi is like something that you can eat sitting on a stove. Again, I don't say that, but it's like something that you can eat sitting on a bench, I believe. Tokuriseta, I don't know what a tokuriseta is. And atarimae de kono kraka. What? Atarimae de kono kraka. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like, of course you cracker, which sounds like something Richard Pryor would say, which would be both out of date and inappropriate. So who knows? Who knows? We're up on time. I am going to, indeed, Japanese government wiping people, swiping people left. It seems very Logan's Run to me. But yeah, anyway, I am going to set up the after party. I downloaded a whole bunch of new music today. I think I'm going to reboot the computer just to make sure everything works okay. So give me a couple of minutes with that. The link, I have not set up the link yet. I meant to do that and I did not have time to do that. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to set up Tokyo After Party with your requests. It's not the right title, but that's okay. I'm going to schedule it for 5 minutes from now at 11:45 p.m. today, and I'm going to put my thumbnail on it. Okay, so I'll share the link right now. Create live stream. And so yeah, join me for the after party if you like that. Remember, you can always follow me on Twitter for keeping up with Japan news. I'm going to be back to being active again. You can always DM me, Instagram. Actually, Instagram and Twitter are my preferred social media, so you can follow me on those. It's Hiko Simon on everything. View on YouTube. Here is the link to the after party where you can pick the tracks that I play. I'm going to practice DJing and whatnot. And hope that you all have a great and wonderful week. Yes, here it is back here. Stay safe and remember, stay in touch. I'm back here every Sunday at 10:30 p.m. because I've got nothing better to do Japan time. I really appreciate you all keeping me company. I really appreciate people who like the video. So please do that, and I'll see you all again next week or in the after party if you're hanging around. So have a good one, everybody, and peace. Boom. Any stream.